Mistrial in the case against the cop who shot Casey Goodson Jr. last Friday. An Ohio jury failed to reach a verdict in the murder case for the former Franklin County Sheriff's Deputy Jason Meade, on the left there. Stands accused of killing 23-year-old Casey Goodson Jr. on the right, December 2020, resulting in a mistrial. It was outside of his family's home in Columbus, where Goodson was fatally shot multiple times in the back by Meade. So right there, that's what you really need to know. But I'm going to go further. Meade was charged with murder, reckless homicide, following year. The incident having happened amid a wave of high-profile killings of Black Americans at the hands of law enforcement. Okay, again, so this is just the spotlight was white hot at the time. This has been going on. Associated Press reported on Friday, February 16th, Franklin County Court of Common Pleas Judge David Young announced a mistrial, a backtrack, hailing the jury for their efforts. The jury told him they could not reach a concrete decision, but he urged them to keep deliberating. However, the jury deadlocked hours later. The judge confirmed the mistrial. Quote, there were jurors back there that obviously felt that Jason Meade was responsible for the unjustifiable killing of Casey Goodson. And that should make a statement, Goodson's family attorney, Sean Walton, telling the outlet Atlanta Black Star, with the details here. Let's recap the shooting. 4 years prior, Meade was assisting the U.S. Marshals in a search of a fugitive who was not Goodson. Not. During this time, he claimed he saw Goodson brandishing a gun inside his car, decided to trail him to his grandmother's residence. Wow. This starts the deadly encounter. Meade alleged Goodson was holding a weapon and plastic bag when he was approaching the home. Meade reportedly ordered Goodson to put his hands up, but opened fire when he didn't comply. He's at his grandmother's door. He's at his grandmother's door. Comply with what? I don't know, if I'm being stuck up. What on earth? This is all it takes? Goodson's family has reiterated he was holding his keys and sandwiches in his hands, while also having AirPods in his ears. Every bit of that is normal. Every bit of that you can relate to. Normal things. They said that he had a license to carry, legal, and didn't contest that the weapon may have been on him. It was discovered inside the kitchen with the safety on. The weapon has nothing to do with why he was shot here. During his trial, Meade argued he was acting in self-defense after Goodson, who had his back turned, pointed the gun at Meade. There's no body cam footage of the shooting, so we're still there, right? Still not required, still doesn't have in every jurisdiction that thing where it automatically kicks on. So it's, well, the cops were against a dead man who can't speak. Judge is expected to meet with both teams to determine the next steps in this case, according to the reports. Quote, we place jurors in impossible situations because they have to be clinicians. They can't use empathy and sympathy and that type of stuff, Meade's attorney Mark Collins said per WCMH. But the reality is they did the best that they could, and that's so justice was served today. Well, justice was not served, and I'm not blaming the jury, but I have a problem. I'd like to start there, Senator, with that last comment by the defense attorney who's priming the next jury for a retrial here. Juries actually do work with empathy. They do it every day when they look at people who are accused who look like them, or they know someone like that, and they're more willing perhaps to buy their story than someone else's. This is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. He had sandwiches.
Yeah, it is.
He had sandwiches.
He had sandwiches.
And I don't appreciate this defense attorney's commentary here, but I guess he's allowed to make it, Senator. Make this make sense if you can.
He is allowed to do that because he is defending his client. So he's going to say that. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I agree with, I mean, look, the jury did the best that this jury could do. It was a jury trial. And because it was a jury trial and they couldn't come to an agreement, that's why it's a mistrial. So let's repeat that for our viewers to understand. Now, the fact that the defense attorney is saying that juries are not supposed to have empathy or sympathy is called being human. Of course, we try to solve for those emotions, but you can't totally take those emotions out of the equation. The fact that this deputy thought it okay to shoot this black man in the back, that's key. And then to say you thought your life was in danger when this person's back was turned to you. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But oftentimes, Sharon, the science shows very clearly that when you are in those emotional, when you're in those moments, we're trying to analyze what was in the mind of this officer when they opened fire. So that's one thing. The second part of this is that we know law enforcement can just say, I thought my life was in danger, and whether they really thought that or not, that is a defense that they can use thanks to the United States Supreme Court. So this is a complicated subject in terms of how we deal with this as a nation. One thing that we do know, they kind of always seem to fear for their lives when black people, for the most part, when you do the comparison, when black lives are involved compared to somebody else. And that raises the issues of biases, our internal biases, cultural competency, how this society, and we are as individuals live in this society, see black people compared to anybody else. It is very clear, both academically on the social science side and on the hard science side, that we as a society, whether we're in law enforcement or not, are programmed to see black people, particularly black men, as more criminal and more dangerous than anybody else. And that in and of itself, Sharon Reed, is dangerous to black people.
Yeah, it is. And if you don't care about black people, let's just take what you said a little bit further. Black people aren't any more dangerous than anybody else.
Nope.
So if you're a police officer who is predisposed to see blackness as a weapon and dangerous, what about everybody else? Aren't you leaving yourself open there? It's like, and I've used this before, so forgive me, but when they would throw at me at the anchor desk, police looking for a black man, I'm not going to say that. Every black person doesn't look alike. Okay, I had a floor director, and I'm thinking, well, maybe it's him. Is he the person who escaped? So you're not even helping the public if this dangerous person, this assailant, is out there and desperate they are to catch him. You're not helping. So I think that's something to look at. But I prefer, since we can't get around these biases, and they really should be weeded out, and people have got to be deprogrammed and then get some sense put into them in the academy and before. Maybe it can't just be several weeks, it's got to be years perhaps, but who would do that? But I really particularly want to stick with the protocols. You thought you saw a gun, so you started trailing him. Turn the lights on. Why don't you turn the lights on? So a man with AirPods in carrying a sandwich isn't going to be startled and turn around and then be shot dead outside his grandma's house. This can't possibly be a situation where protocols were followed, because this is, if it is, then we're all doomed. Okay, so let's cut the crap here. This officer should be on the hook, I believe, for this man's death, who was minding his own business. But I also believe that there are things that are so obvious jumping out at us, Senator. It's either all or nothing. How can that be possible? This is the protocol?
Yeah, no, it's true. He probably was not following protocol. And if that is the protocol, then God help us. These departments need a new protocol. And if he's that afraid, maybe he shouldn't be a law enforcement officer. Because I won't deny that there are times when law enforcement are in some pretty, dangerous situations. I mean, my son is in law enforcement. I worry about him every single day. You cannot walk around thinking or feeling as though you're going to just shoot people in the back, or you just going to shoot first and ask questions later. And Sharon, your point about this law enforcement officer pursued Goodson. He didn't have to do that. And if he thought something really was going down, he didn't call anybody. And you're right. Where was the camera? See, that camera footage protects everybody. It also protects law enforcement too at those times where people lie or exaggerate, which does happen. So it helps the public, but it also helps the law enforcement officers as well. But of course, in this situation, we do not have it. My condolences to the Goodson family for this, and we shall see what the next trial yields, Sharon.
I'm just so tired of this slow singing, flower bringing, no good reason for. I can't make sense of it. I can't.